Good morning. Welcome to our Thursday practice session. We're going to be working on grass sparrow's tail today. So this is a companion practice session with the one we did on Tuesday this week. So if you joined us on Tuesday, great, you're in good shape for this one. If you didn't, maybe add the Tuesday practice session to your queue for later on. But let's get started just doing the bear, and doing the bear to just get in touch with how it feels. So don't worry about getting it right. Really feel what it feels like as the arms swing through the air, feeling the air in front of your palm like your hands are moving through water. Feel your chest, the shoulder joint, the pecs. Feel how the shoulder closes as the arm swings in front of you and opens as the arm falls back. So there's a closing and opening happening in each of the shoulders. So really tune into that feeling at the top of the chest. Feel the middle of your torso, the solar plexus area. Try to feel that relaxed. Any twisting will tighten that. So really having the solar plexus area relaxed will help you keep the body aligned, shoulders with hips, turning from the waist. Feel your lower abdomen. Feel the lower back. Completely relaxed, softening around the kidneys, base of spine, tailbone, letting all of that soften. Feel the sides of your lower abdomen softening. Feel your belly completely relaxed. Feel the hip joints, so they are closing and opening. The hip joint is out of sequence with the shoulder, so the hip joint as it empties opens and that same shoulder is going to be closing. So the hip joints and shoulders, again, one hip joint is closing while the other is opening, just as one shoulder is closing while the other is opening, and the same side hip and the shoulder are out of sequence. As my right hip closes, my right shoulder opens. As my left hip closes, my left shoulder opens. So feel that action happening in the hip joints. Feel down through your legs. Feel your thighs, trying to soften them. The legs are harder than the arms because they support our weight. But even with supporting the weight, you can feel the legs soften, the muscles doing less. So feel your thighs. Feel your knees. Beth likes to say the knee's like a bendy straw, and the knee is the bendy part. So try to feel that the knees are open and there's space inside them. So think about them as having three-dimensional volume, and you can let the inside of the knee be completely open. Feeling your calves, really softening the lower leg. Calves are hard to let go of. So when you let the weight come out of a leg, really let the calf on that leg soften. Feeling them give. Back of the lower legs giving. Ankles, softening through the ankles. And your feet, letting the feet melt into the ground. Make sure you don't grip the ground with your toes. Let the toes just soften and lay on the ground like a string mop spreading out on the ground. Rear crown of the head is suspended. That's what lets the whole body be relaxed, hanging down. And the mind rests in the dantian. So your soft belly, lower abdomen, makes a space for your awareness. Couple more swings. And great. Let's do a first third. Nice and easy. Focus mainly on letting the body be soft. We're not working hard yet, so let the body just be relaxed, move through this easily. And go ahead. Great. So let's look at grasp sparrow's tail. Meaning, the order of the form has meaning. So the very first move is the first move. That suggests to us that it is, in some sense, the most important. So Ben would tell us, you study Tai Chi for 10 years, you'll find the opening move to be the most challenging. I think because it's not obvious how the yin and yang separation happens here in a 50-50 stance. That's one of the beginning pieces. How do you use the waist and the legs to move the arms? So all of those are things that take some time to explore. Next up, grasp sparrow's tail. Ward off, roll back, press, and push. Peng, Liu, Ji, An. So those are really the core of the whole art. And then single whip. So you really don't want to neglect any of this stuff at the beginning. So let's look at some of the details for doing those moves. We'll work on this some, and I'll see what comes up as I'm doing it. We've also shot video for each of the moves in the first third. So if you go look at our video library, you'll see 5 to 10 minutes on each of these moves with us just trying to lay out the posture details and the energetic details for each of them. In kind of a layered way. So in each of those we go over the raw, rough choreography of it first. That's really useful if you're learning. Then we come back and zoom in on some of the detail. So I'm not going to try to cover everything here on these moves, but I want to call out some particulars. So let's take it from the top, and just so we get into it. We will stop and hold postures some here. When you're holding postures, that is an active thing. Don't just be there waiting for the torture to end. While you're holding postures, continue to release, relaxing the whole body and trying to find any place that you're tight and holding and let go of that while maintaining the correct external posture. So if I'm in ward off left and I'm holding it here and I start relaxing and everything droops, that's not it. I need to keep the correct external posture. And while I'm doing this, I'm continuing to scan my body. I'm looking for places that might be tight and letting them relax. I'm looking for places where I might not be in quite the right shape, and I'm getting myself back in the right shape. So posture holding is very active. So let's actively hold a few postures from the beginning. Shift the weight, let the arms bow, take a step. Shift 100%, that lets the body open to the right. Turn back to the front, pivoting on your heel. 50-50, unlocked knee position. So we stand in this posture a lot. So check it out. Are your feet parallel? Are the toes in a line? I fixed mine some. You can probably fix yours too. Rear crown of the head suspended. Whole body is open. Tension relaxing. And go ahead from your feet, a long curve all the way out to the tips of the fingers, and the hands come back into the body. Arms rebalance, elbows slide back, wrists drop, fingertips point up, wrists gradually straighten as the hands come down. Shift to the left, turn to the right, a ball of air. Make sure your hands are really over each other. Don't just accept that what you think is a good ball is a ball. Oh yeah, I've got my hands in a ball. Actually check hearts of the palms oriented directly over each other. Make sure that all your weight is in the back so you can float your front foot. When you do that, relax the body. Notice that you probably tightened your belly. Shift 100% forward, keeping that ball of air. The ball comes closer to you. Rear foot is empty. Turn the waist to the corner. Step, heel first. No weight. And shift. As you start to shift, the top hand comes down, fingers passing inside the left wrist. Then continue shifting, turning the waist, ward off left. Hold it here for a while. Make sure your waist is square to the front. So if you didn't quite get square, bend the front hip joint more. Make sure the waist is square to the front. If you can't do that, you probably don't have enough width between your feet. So fix it. The body is upright. So look if you're leaning forward or back. Get yourself really upright. The left arm, the ward-off arm, is rounded. It's in front of you. Your center of your chest goes right to between the wrist and the heart of the palm. So it's not that the center of chest aligns with the fingers, and it's certainly not that you pull the arm across you. Here my center of my chest is aligning with my forearm. But let it be here where the center of the chest aligns with between the wrist and the heart of the palm. Make sure all 5 fingers are visible. So the thumb is in the same plane as the other fingers, but you're not hitchhiking. The pinky doesn't go off on it. The thumb doesn't go off on its own. Get it so that it's pointed the same direction as the others. The wrist is slightly above the elbow, not drooping. Wrist is slightly above the elbow so that the elbow can hang, and the shoulder and elbow are relaxed. The bottom hand is here. It's angled in. It's not pointed straight ahead. It's angled in slightly. It's not all the way under the other hand. There's still some vertical space between the two of them. And it's in front of your right hip. This is resting on the head of the small child. So now standing here, just let go and relax. Scanning the body, looking for tension. Tension will show up as discomfort when you're holding postures. So when you start feeling an achy, burny thing, that means there's tightness there, so you can relax it. And making sure that as you do that, it doesn't distort the posture. You stay in the good posture. Okay, continue. Shifting forward, right fingers come under left hand. Turn the waist, ball of air. Step. Shift. As you shift, the ball rotates. More weight forward. Turn your waist. Ward off right. Check it again. Make sure the waist is square to the front. Don't let yourself be open. This one's easy to not have stepped wide enough. So make sure you've got enough width between the feet. Waist is square. Right arm this time is the ward-off arm. It's a little more angled up than in ward-off left. But you've got that same thing. The elbow is dropped. The center of the chest goes to the heart of the palm or the wrist. You've got about that much play in there. Not pulling the arm across you. Not just bringing the fingers, not to the front. Square. The left hand is between your body and the right hand, and the hearts of the two palms are related to each other. So you feel that ball of air between the two hands. Scanning the body, finding tension, and releasing it. Looking at the shape, discovering if you're a little wee-haw, if you've lost your shape. Getting your shape back. Letting go and sinking when you want to stand up. And take a break. Okay, so I talked some final posture details there. I want to look at some of how do we get from the beginning posture to ward off left, and then from ward off left to ward off right. So I've just done the opening. When you turn here, your arm rises and the other hand comes underneath it, and you pivot your foot at the same time. So this all happens together. I sink, which will turn me very slightly to the left, and then I come back to the right. As I'm doing that, I have a feeling that my right arm is moving along the length of the arm rather than rising perpendicularly to the arm. Because the arm is attached at my shoulder, as I lengthen it and pull it from the top, the arm will come up. So I don't have any feeling of lifting on that. At the same time as I turn, the other side comes underneath it and everything finishes together. So you see how my bottom hand here and my foot are coming together. They both reach their final posture at the same time. So do this with me a couple times, and I want to get you having the feeling of we'll do the left arm first as it rises, and then, the right arm first, and then we'll pay attention to the left arm. So you've just done the opening posture. Sink, which will turn you very slightly to the left. That starts your right arm moving. And now turn away from the right arm. The hip pulls back, the shoulder pulls back, and that causes the arm to rise. Do that again. Sink, which starts the arm moving, turn to the right, let the hip come back, let the shoulder come back, cause the arm to rise. So the motion is along the length of the arm. Now do it the other way, with the motion perpendicular to the arm, and feel what it feels like to lift the arm as you do that. So you see, that's a motion that's going perpendicular. Check that out again. Shift, turn, and lift the arm. So recognize that feeling. Now do it the other way. Toss the arm and move away from it. Motion goes along the arm comes up. Again. Toss the arm, move away from it, motion along the arm comes up. Now pay attention to the left arm and the right foot. Toss, turn, left arm is happening, right foot is turning, everything finishes together. Hearts of the palms are directly over each other. Once more. Toss, turn. Okay, now look where my hands are. They're actually fairly far from my body. As I shift forward, the hands stay in space and I come towards it. So now the hand is quite close to me. So see what happened there. I have a big ball of air far from me. I move towards it. So the ball of air doesn't move in space. I'm not going like this, pulling my hands in. I'm also not carrying it with me where it stays big. I toss it and I move towards it. Then you step. As you shift, the top hand is dropping. The bottom hand starts moving. Of course, it doesn't stay rigid there. But the primary motion is the top hand dropping. And the fingers are going to go right inside the left wrist. So as my hand drops, the hands are coming right in there. Just as I reach about 50-50, the right fingers will have reached the left wrist. And now I change and I turn and the whole thing expands. So now my hand expands out. Again, it's like the very first piece. I'm not lifting the left hand vertically. I'm letting it expand out. And because it's attached to my shoulder, as it moves away from me, it will rise. But the doing is moving away from me. So let's do that again. So, sink to the left, toss the right arm, turn to the right, letting that bring the right arm up. The left hand comes under, the right foot turns. The two palms are over each other. Keep them in the same place in space and move towards it. Turn to step. As you start to shift, the right hand drops so that the fingers are right by the left wrist. When you're about 50-50, the fingers should be at the wrist. Turn, come forward. Do that again. Toss the arm, turn away from it. Let everything snap together. Shift towards the ball of air. Step. As you start to shift, the right hand drops 50-50. The right hand has just reached the inside of the left wrist. Expand into the final posture. Now the next bit. What's going to happen is I sink and that turns me slightly to the left. So as I do that, my top hand turns over and it stays in space. It doesn't come with me. Top hand doesn't go like this so that it's still in front of my center line. What happens is I turn inside it and that lets the top hand turn over. At the same time, the bottom hand comes with me, and so as I turn, the bottom fingers move, and the result of that is that the two hands go over each other. Remember I said in ward off left, the two hands are not vertically aligned. Fingers aren't in a line. So as I do this first bit that brings them into line, now I turn away from it. That turns the bottom hand over. I've got my ball of air. I step. Now watch this bit. As I start to shift, I let the hands rotate. So see how both hands are rotating. It's not just the bottom hand coming up while the back hand stays dead and then I come forward. No. Both hands rotate as I go through there. Now at this point I'm right about the 50-50 point, so I connect my front leg to my rear hand, and as I turn, that takes me into the final posture. So let's do that again. A couple times. I'm going to do it. We'll run through it once with stopping every place. We'll run through it again without any breaks, and then we'll do it a third time and check yourself, see how well you do with all of this. So we just did the opening move. Sink to the left, toss your right arm, turn away from it, let that draw it up. Bottom hand comes underneath it. Everything finishes at once. Perfect ball of air. Shift towards that ball of air. Notice that the arms will rotate a little bit as you do this. Turn to the front and step. As you shift, the top hand drops. Turning, the bottom hand expands. All the weight forward, top hand turns over, bottom hand comes underneath it. Turn away from it, bottom hand turns over. Step. Shift, rotate the ball, both hands rotating. Connect the front foot to the rear hand. Turn into ward off right. Again. Toss the hand, turn away from it, drawing the hand along the length of it. Everything finishes together. Check it out. Are you really separated? Can you float that front foot? Are the two hands directly over each other, hearts of the palms? Letting tension melt off you. Okay, now shift towards the hands. The ball of air comes closer to you. Really release the rear leg. It's easy for your left butt to still be engaged here, and you see how that pitched me forward. So really release it. Turn the waist to the corner. That'll make it easier to step. Step, heel first. No weight. Shift. As you shift, the right hand drops. The left hand is starting to move, but it's not really moving. Stop at the 50-50 point. At that point, your right fingertip should be pointed at your left wrist. I'm still facing the corner. Now, expand into the final posture. That's what brings up the left hand. Check that your two fingers are not over each other, but make sure that the right hand is angled in slightly. It's not exactly forward. It's angled in slightly. Check that the left wrist is in front of the center of your chest, between the wrist and the heart of the palm. Check that the left elbow is slightly dropped below the left wrist. Check that the left thumb is in the same plane as the other fingers. It's not 4 fingers, it's all 5. And check that the top of the left thumb is pointed the same direction as the other hands, not headed off on its own. Waist is square. Releasing tension. Shift into the front, turn slightly to the left. As you do that, your top hand turns over, your bottom hand comes under it. Stop here. You should have an unbearable amount of weight in your front leg. I'm not going to make you pick your back foot up just because of the shape, but you'd sure like to get to 100% here. And now, the two hands are vertically over each other. Turn back to the right. As you do that, that turns the bottom palm over. Now you've got a ball of air. Step. You're going to have to step to your side to have enough width. Shift. As you shift, make sure both hands change. Back hand too. Go back to the ball of air place. My left palm is facing the ground. As I shift, both hands rotate. Now I've got a small ball of air. Back to the big ball of air place once more. Start to shift. Both hands rotate. 50-50. You've got your ball of air. You're facing the corner. Connect your front foot to your rear hand and turn. Ward off right. Check out the posture points. Waist is square. Right wrist to center of palm is in the center of the chest. Right elbow is dropped. 5 fingers, not the right thumb falling in, and the right thumb isn't off doing its own thing. It's headed the same direction as the others. The left hand is between your body and your right hand. Hearts of the palms facing each other. Rear crown of head suspended. Body relaxing. Feeling yourself falling to the ground. Great. Take a break. Okay, I want to do a couple details on roll back, and then we'll do that whole section again a couple times, and then I'll turn it over to Beth. And we'll put press and push on the shelf for some future time. So, roll back. my hands are like this. I sink into the front foot and turn. And watch what happened here. My rear hand ended up with the fingers right by the right wrist. So this is just like when you're going into ward off left and the right hand drops by the left wrist and then you finish it. That same arrangement here is happening with fingers by the right wrist. So don't just take this ball and turn it, not changing. Actually do this. Take ward off right with me. And sink into the front leg, turning to the right. Let the left fingers reach the right wrist. Do that again. Back to the ball. Sink into the front leg, turn to the right, left fingers reach right wrist. Do it again, and this time just carry the ball. Just turn and carry the ball. Feel how that doesn't have the dynamism of the other one. So back to the ball. As you sink, let the hands change. Sit back 100% as you do that. The left hand rotates so that the left palm is up. The left ring finger is right here at the knobby side of my right elbow. So when we say the ring finger is by the elbow, we don't mean the ring finger is below the elbow. We mean it's at the side of the elbow. So ward off right, sink into the front foot, left fingers by right elbow, by right wrist, sit back, left ring finger by right elbow. At this point, my right hand is right in front of my shoulder here. The palm is vertical. Don't turn it up. A lot of times people do this, and they turn it up as they're sitting back. Sit back, the right palm is vertical. Because what's going to happen is as I turn, I'm sending energy out the heart of that palm. I'm not trying to lift something. So you sit back, and then turn from one corner to the other corner. Notice how my hands didn't change much. So I'm not already dropping the bottom hand as I do that turn. Sit back, turn, keep this shape. This is the end of rollback. This next bit is going into press. So a lot of times people think rollback is here, and now I'm just getting into press. And it can feel really nice to drop the right arm here, but look at this. I am wide open. So if I did this in push hands with somebody, if I'm here with Beth and I'm going to come back and do my rollback and I drop my hands, I'm wide open. I just left myself there for her. So this hand, my bottom hand, needs to continue to function as ward off here. It's still there with me. So I sit back, it's still with me. Valerie says, you guys are doing push hands. I should be part of that. So keep that hand with you. So let's do those first pieces again. And I'll keep facing the camera. Beth will face the same direction as you so that you can see me from the front. But you're going to be making the same kinds of shapes as her. So. Okay, ward off left. Shift to the left, that starts the right hand moving. Turn away from it, that draws the hand up. Left hand and right foot come together, checkpoint. Shift towards the ball of air. Turn to the corner and step. As you shift, the top hand drops, the right finger's right by the left wrist, just as you hit 50-50. Expand into ward off left. Down into the front foot, top hand turns over, it doesn't move, bottom hand moves under the top hand, turn back to the right, ball of air, step, shift. As you shift, both hands move, so the whole ball rotates, 50-50, connect the front foot to the rear hand, turn, ward off right. Down into the front foot, fingertips by right wrist. Sit back, left ring finger next to the right elbow. Right palm is vertical. Turn. Hands only change a little bit. And then we'll continue into press. And push. Okay, 3 more times from the top up through push, and then we'll stop. And let's just run through these. So part of the trick for running through these, we're going to go more in regular form speed. I'm not going to stop at every place. I'm not going to talk every time. And so this is practice for you to remember these things we just did. You'll forget some of them, and that's okay. But notice that you're forgetting. Notice that it went past. And then the next time, try to notice it before it goes past so you can do it. So, from the top. And go ahead. One more time. Think that puts the whole body in motion. Body opens to the right on its own, you turn back to the front. Feel your feet. Feel all the way through the body out to the tips of the fingers. Hands slide back on the invisible tabletop. Arms rebalance, fingers awake, wrists gradually straighten as the hands come down. Shift to the left, toss the right arm right away, move away from it, hip, shoulder, left hand and right foot, everything finishes together. Shift towards the ball of air, coming closer to it, turn to step. As you shift, the top hand drops, right fingers right by left wrist, expand into the final posture. Sink into the front foot. Top hand turns over, bottom hand comes under it. Turn away from that hand towards the right corner. Ball of air. Step. Make sure you have shoulder wide. Shift. Both hands move so the ball rotates. Connect your front foot to your rear hand. Turn into ward off right. Sink down into the front foot, left fingers by right wrist. Sit back, left hand rotates, left ring finger by the side of the right elbow. Right palm is vertical. Turn, keeping the hands with you. Now swing the arms back towards the front, hands squeezing together, and press. See if you're holding the hands up too high, and release them. Forearms should be at 45 degrees relative to the ground, not vertical, not parallel to the ground, 45 degrees. On to push. Sit back, let the palms turn down. As you sit back, they separate. Elbows dropping. Let the hands rise along the angle of the forearms. Release, feel it go out the palms. Scanning the body, letting go of any tension. And great. Take a break. So I give you a lot of detail on ward off and on rollback. I gave you too much to digest in one sitting. So what you need to do is work with this. This is the path to progress. There's a bunch of stuff. I gave you a bunch of external mechanical checkpoints. And so first you have to learn those. You have to look at your form and see if you're doing them or not. Admit when you're not, and remember that you want to do them and bring it back. And then figure out how does that happen from the inside. So I'm giving you the externals right now. You've got to learn those externals, you've got to practice those externals, and then you've got to connect them to the internal. I think Beth is going to do a little more internal work here about how this whole thing feels, and that's where we're trying to go. But you got to have these external checkpoints right. So that's why I just spent, whatever it was, 35 minutes or something on them. So I'll turn it over to Beth now.
All right. So as Lee said, I want to work on the internals. So that doesn't mean that you forget about all those details that we've just been working on, but I want to bring some awareness to what we call your central axis. Think of it as running from the base of your spine through the rear crown of your head, and it's going to come down to your feet. You just change which foot it's over, but you don't need to put yourself on top of it like it's geometry. Just in your mind, you're on one foot or the other, and you've got the central axis that you're using to turn and connect to heaven and earth. So let's do it with the bear first, and just bring some awareness to that axis. Jane would call this the unwobbling pivot. So think of yourself as having a place that doesn't change inside. And it's what you organize your movement around. So as you do the bear, you can be engaging one hip joint and releasing the other one without an awareness of your axis. So, just doing the bear the way you do it. Now I want you to feel like you've got this axis that you're rotating around. And as you do the move, you're still changing your hip joints, one and the other, but bring your awareness to that axis that runs through you. And find that nice, calm, unchanging center that you can rotate around. That's what we're looking for. If you go back to just kind of doing the bear without thinking about that, it should feel a little different. And then come back to that feeling, and we're going to keep working with that feeling. I want to start looking at how we go into the very first ward off. So you've just done the opening move, and you're going to sit into your left leg and turn. We're just going to do this much, turning around your axis. Come back. Establish your axis. Shift and turn around that axis. Once more. Shift and turn. It's like your arms just come with it because you've got this nice center that you're revolving around. There's a quality of spiral in that too. Let's do this again. As you shift and turn, notice how turning around the axis gets you a little bit of a spiral quality. You have to let go of your empty hip joint so that you're really on one leg. Come back to here, and this time we'll go all the way to ward off left. Sit into the left leg and turn, releasing that empty front hip joint. Now, just change which leg the axis is sitting on. Turn to the corner, keeping that feeling of the axis. Step. Begin to shift. This is the horizontal part of it where you get onto the other leg. And now turn around your axis to get into the final posture. This should help you square your hips because that turning uses the hip joint and brings you into the posture. And it should feel like there's less disturbance of the air. Rest your legs and let's do it again. So sit into your left leg and turn, releasing the right hip joint, turning around that axis. Reposition yourself over the other leg. There's a little bit more turn. You never turn without the axis. Turn to the corner and step. Begin to shift. As you get from one leg to the other, as soon as you're ready to take over in the front leg, turn on your axis. Let that spiral your front leg into the ground and help you square your hips and bring everything together. Now let's go on to the next ward off. A little bit more turn in your front leg around your axis, turning back to the corner around that axis. Step, begin to shift, and when the front leg is ready to take over, let that turning around the axis be what brings you to the fullness of the posture. And rest your legs. So it's a lot like the yin-yang symbol, where you've got your two little dots, but see, they align with each other. So that's what you're looking for. It'll help you stay upright, and it will give you an organizing principle that then your limbs can revolve around, and it will make the motions be more unified because you're literally coming from the center and rotating around the center. So let's take a look at it in a move that doesn't have turning. So when you go from press to push, you want the same feeling of having an axis established that you're moving with. And so when you come into your back leg, you're taking the whole axis onto the back leg, and then you're moving the whole thing forward. As opposed to going back and forward. There's a lot of disturbance of the air. I may think I need to get all the way back there so that I can separate the weight. Okay, now I'm back here, I can separate the weight. Now I come forward and I push. You want to still be moving on that axis even though you're not turning. So, yes, you have to separate the weight. And yes, you come forward. But there's much less going on outside when you keep that axis inside. So let's do that together, just from press to push. And we're going to do it in both ways. First, we'll do it the way we want to do it. Then we'll try doing it the big way, and then we'll come back. Because that's... Okay, so let's give this a try. Establish your axis, sitting onto the back leg without losing that feeling inside of that axis. And then come forward, just bringing the axis forward. And reposition your hands. And now let's make the big non-axis motions. So you sit into your back leg and you want to go back, And then you come forward and you want to push. So feel what that's like. Do that again. Sitting away, coming forward. Now, you're just taking the axis from the front foot. You're dropping it onto the rear foot. You should be able to separate the weight here. And then let the whole thing come forward using your axis to just bring it onto the front leg. Let's do it that way again. Sitting away from your hands, elbows drop into your root, keeping your axis. Now just reposition on top of your front leg and bring it forward. And one more time. We won't stop, we'll make it flow because the axis gives you a continuous relationship to ground and heaven, and it will keep you upright. Let's do it the other way once, and notice how when you sit back, you tend to lean. And when you come forward, you tend to lean. Now, come back to your axis, just changing which foot it's on. Come forward, now it's on the other foot. So it should feel like a lot less movement. And that means there's more room for things to happen inside because you're not busy doing a lot of extraneous effort outside. One thing that's really critical about the axis is that it's not a tuning fork. When it drops down to the ground, it only has one point. You have two legs. That's the tuning fork. So if I were to do this, this move here, and I don't let go of this hip joint, I don't have an axis. Now I've got a tuning fork because it's running through both of them. And if we do this in, say, roll back, and I turn, and I haven't let go of this hip joint, it's like I'm turning a 2x4. I don't have a nice axis. As soon as I let this go, now I can turn. So the axis will also help you separate the weight and turn better. Let's try doing that with rollback. So take it from ward off right. Turning around your axis. Repositioning it on top of your back leg. Free your front hip joint. Turn around your axis, and we'll go on to press. Coming back, and now it's in your front leg. Reposition to ward off, and this time I want you to try doing it the other way. So turn around your axis, sit onto your back leg, but keep your front hip joint engaged. Now, try to turn around an axis when it's got two bottoms. See how it stops you and gets stuck? Go back to the front right corner, release your right hip joint, and now you can actually turn on your axis. So that's the difference. That's what gives you the ability to move easily and really use that unwobbling pivot there at the center to organize all your movements. Let's do some rounds of grasping the sparrow's tail, just looking at that situation. So starting at the top, we'll start in the V and just do the whole thing once. Get ourselves through to push. So standing right here, find that axis, become aware of it, and begin. You drop it through one foot. When you shift and turn, you're turning around the axis. Come back to the front, turning around it again. Sitting into the left, turning around the axis, really releasing that right hip joint. Shift to the right, turn around it as you go to the corner and step, begin to shift. Left foot takes over and turn around the axis to create the final posture. Turn a little more. Back to the corner. Everything's nicely arranged. Moving around your axis. Turn to the corner. When you shift onto your left leg, free the right hip joint. Turn. Keep freeing the right hip joint and turn around your axis. Turn around your axis coming back. That's what draws the two hands toward each other. And now you can position in your 70-30. Nice and upright. Sitting away from the hands, elbows drop into your root. You're still nice and upright. Bring it forward. Rest your legs. So you want to bring this to everything that you're doing. Now you see you can do it you with your mind. You change which foot you're on, whether you're turning, going straight ahead, however the movements go, you want to maintain that feeling. It will help you keep your mind in your dantian because it's in there along that axis too. So it can quiet your external movements and your internal dialogue because you've got this place to bring your awareness and let it rest as your limbs do whatever they need to do. So let's look at it doing a first third. It's all the same. So nice and aligned, feeling the whole body relaxed around your axis. And go. Turning around the axis. The axis will help you get to single whip. Think about turning around your axis, change the bottom of your foot, but you're still rotating around that same axis. You get onto your other leg and turn around that axis. And then turning again. Bringing it onto the other leg and turning around the axis. Keep emptying your front hip joint. Turn and turn back. Keeping that still, quiet place at the center. Sitting onto the back leg, turning around your axis. Reposition it and step. Keep the sense of your central axis, and everything revolves around that. Even as you punch, there's a quality of punching around your axis. Changing to the back leg, sitting down, and forward. Into the back leg, free your front hip joint, and turn around that axis. As you come up through the body, maintaining that sense of an axis. Closing up, same thing. So this is something you can bring to all your movements. I encourage you to keep coming back to that. It will reduce the disturbance of the air, it'll unify your movements, and it will bring you more inside, and that's kind of the goal. So keep relaxing, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon.